Welcome, everybody, to Wide Receiver Preview Part 1. This is Fantasy Football Today, presented by BetMGM, the sportsbook born in Vegas. As we break down this awesome position that people just love, a lot of great advancement. I think it's the best advanced metrics position in fantasy football history. So we'll get into a lot of the advanced stats. Talk about our favorite players, sleepers, breakouts, busts, why targets matter and how many targets you need, where the value is, why rookies are often very good, and so on and so forth. According to Fantasy Pros PPR ADP, we have 6 running backs and 6 wide receivers being drafted in the first round. The average age of the running backs is about 26 years old. The average age of the wide receivers is about 25 years old, but 3 of the running backs are 28 or older. So you have Gibbs, Genty, and Bijan, who are very young, but then you have Barkley, McCaffrey, and Henry, who are on the old side, whereas there's not a single wide receiver being drafted in the first round that is over 26. So I do think it's an interesting decision to make, right? Am I taking a 28-year-old, 29-year-old, 31-year-old wide receiver, or a 25, 26-year-old, running back, or a 25, 26-year-old wide receiver? Does that factor in at all for you?
Well, that it does for me because I have lowered. I mean, Saquon's the only one of those running backs that I have in the first round. So I have lowered the older running backs. And that's kind of what I was saying during the running back preview is I've got a stretch of Bijan, Achane, Barkley, Genty, Gibbs that I'm taking over all the wide receivers besides Chase and Lamb. And then it's like 6 straight wide receivers for me.
And Jamie, over the last, I want to say 4 seasons, there have been 27 running backs drafted in the first round. They've averaged 17.2 points per game in PPR. 17 wide receivers drafted in the first round. They've averaged 19 points per game. This might be the last 3 seasons. But anyway, I'll ask you the same question about the age. Do you factor that in? You're looking at 2 guys. One of them is 29. One of them is 28. One of them's 31, and then there's the wide receivers who are clearly in their prime. Big deal for you?
I love older players. So I think that forget about the position, forget about anything. The first round should all be players that are 28 years older. So like Aaron Rodgers should be a first-round pick. Travis Kelce should be a first-round pick. Nick Folk should be a first-round pick.
We do this, though. We got Barkley, Henry, McCaffrey, Tyreek Hill. I'll probably stop there.
Joe Mix.
Oh, do an older player team?
Yeah, we'll get off on a little bit of a
Devontae Adams. You take Evans.
Devontae Adams, yep.
You take Evans.
Evans could be, yeah, there you go.
Kelce.
Yeah. This should be one of our bets, by the way. Whoever loses has to draft an all 29 or older team.
So you'd have to go. I think it's tough because so like the other night I took Gibbs and then got Hill and Adams. You would have to probably go Henry, Hill, and Adams to start.
Well, you could go later in the draft, but
also Josh Allen's 29, so you're probably taking a quarterback.
No, it's got to be Rodgers. That's the problem. It's got to be Rodgers.
Yeah, it can't be quarterback.
Your backup's got to be Russ or Flacco.
Sum up the wide receiver position in 5 words or less.
I want a lot of them.
No, that's more than 5. No, it's not. I don't know. Heath, sum up the position in 5 words or less.
Elite top 9, then blobs.
It's funny you say top 9. So who's 9 for you?
Well, Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Okay, who's 8 for you?
Brian Thomas.
AJ Brown is in this group, right?
AJ Brown is the guy
that
you're missing. Yes,
Drake London belongs.
Jamie's saying elite top 10 Drake London. Ah, boy. But London is almost always 9th or 10th.
You by the way, comment from the chat. Johnny says This is like a bad haiku. It would have been much better if you would have asked us to break down the position with a haiku.
We can try to do that. London is always 9th or 10th in drafts.
It depends.
Really.
In the flex draft, he went ahead of AJ Brown, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and I think that's it.
Let me tell you, do you think that the Falcons go over or under 4,283 passing yards?
Over.
Really? That is so many passing yards.
I mean,
seventh most passing yards in the NFL last year.
1,310.
What do you say? 4,310?
310 is what I have.
All right, so that is a little bit over. How about 21 touchdowns?
Under.
Slightly over.
Here's my point. Drake London was wide receiver 14 per game in full PPR last year. The Falcons had the 7th most passing yards in the NFL. 21 touchdowns is a little on the low side, kind of average. I don't know that we should expect their offense to be that much better. So why should I expect Drake London to be in the elite tier?
When did Kirk Cousins hurt his shoulder?
I don't know, week 9-ish.
And then he played 4 games after that?
3 games with it, as I recall.
No, I think it was 4 because Penix only played the final 3.
Honestly, I don't. I'm just guessing.
I'm just trying to figure out, like, they were awful in those stretches.
But it doesn't matter. Overall, they had the 7th most passing yards in football.
Right. So you have this huge 500-yard game from Cousins. You want to throw out their best and throw out their worst.
No,
I mean, that stretch was awful.
Yeah, but they had the 7th most yards in football, and he was wide receiver 14 per game.
And I'm just expecting, hopefully, we don't have a 4-game stretch where they let their quarterback play with a bad shoulder or elbow.
All right.
Also, 2 of the guys who were ahead of him at wide receiver 14 are 32 years old. So we've moved them down, Evans and Adams. One of the guys who was ahead of him in per game is currently on PUP. So we're basically projecting to be what he was last year.
Okay. All right, so we'll get into that in just a little bit. Let's talk about some strategies and whatnot. I have a couple of announcements to make. Getting a lot of emails in the FFT Open leagues. And just so you know, I'm in the leagues right now as kind of the co-commish, but I'm only participating in my division. So if you see emails from me, I'm just overseeing. But real quick, because I know there are only 268 of you that are in these. So the drafts. You've been asking about the drafts. I think what we're going to do is slow drafts. Maybe you can figure out, but I think August 20th is a good day to start slow drafts for the FFT Open. If we do them all at the same time, it'll have kind of a cool Scott Fishy kind of vibe to it. So just going to throw that out there. Slow drafts on August 20th. You guys paid the money and girls. So if you want to try to do a live draft, that's totally up to you. But just maybe give me until the weekend or next week, and I'll really try to sort it out. I need to get through these position previews, and then I'll look through all the leagues. Because not everybody has accepted their invites yet. So please, if you haven't accepted your invites, if you're not in the FFT Open League that you purchased, be on the lookout for it. If you haven't gotten an invitation, please email me or email fantasyfootball@cbsi.com. That's the letter I. And if your name is Josh Goldman, I've been emailing you. Please, I really want to get you in your league because you donated generously. Just please respond to my emails. Thank you, Josh.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Since we're doing slow drafts, are you doing decimal point scoring?
Yeah.
We should give 0.5 in every playoff round to the league that finishes first, if they make the playoffs.
No. Let's start with this.
Half a point?
Maybe is wide receiver preview. Let's get to it.
Oh, come on. Let's make it fun.
No, I want blank.
Why are you anti-fun?
This is an evergreen episode that people are going to be listening to in 3 weeks. So I want blank of my top blank.
You've been anti-fun for 10 years.
Me, I'm always fun. I want blank of my top blank wide receivers.
Oh, boy. 2 of my top 10.
Ambitious.
I don't think the way my ranking's set up, I'm going to get that. So I'll say 1 of my top 12.
Okay. Let me expand it a little bit because I would like, looking at our consensus rankings, I would like 3 of your top 28, 29-ish. Be generous and say 30. 3 top 30. And probably 4. I could actually, if I took a running back heavy approach, 3 top 40 could work because you got guys like Chris Olave, Ricky Pearsall, Jordan Addison, Deebo Samuel, Cooper Kupp at the end of the top 40. But I think 3 top 30-ish would work for me. How about you guys? Like 3 of your top what?
Like all of our leagues almost now are 3 wide receiver leagues. And I think the majority of when I ask on Twitter of leagues are still 2 wide receiver leagues. So that's a big, big difference. I think 3 of the top 40 in a 2 wide receiver league is probably fine. 3 of the top 30 feels better in a 3 wide receiver league.
I'm glad you brought that up, Heath, because we've done a lot more examples of 2 receiver drafts than we've ever done before with the mocks that we're doing now. So trying to be a little more reflective of that. Look, there's so many different formats now with people using 2 flexes and things like that, where you could play multiple wide receivers if it's a 3 receiver league or even 2 receiver league. So it's still, I think, in your best interest in PPR to start 3 receivers if you have 2 receivers in flex. Yeah, I think that's fair, Adam. I think 3 of the top 40 would be appropriate. It's a matter of which 3 you're talking about, though, because I don't want to have Chris Olave, Ricky Pearsall, and Deebo Samuel as my top 3 receivers.
No. Of course, I meant that you're waiting. You're just not going to be super strong at wide receiver. But hey, it's not so bad if Deebo Samuel, Chris Olave, Ricky Pearsall, Jordan Addison. I know he's spent my number 3 guy in a 2 receiver league.
So basically, what you're saying almost is a hero wide receiver approach.
Yeah, I mean, whatever it is, I think we can bring up some different teams that we've drafted in the strategies. But yeah, okay. First of all, we definitely want to have an elite, one of the top 8 or 9 wide receivers, right? Because we feel like there's a substantial drop off, and having one of the elite ones is almost a necessity.
No, it can't be a necessity.
Sorry, I shouldn't have said that.
If you have a pick in the top 6 picks and you draft a running back, there's a very good chance you're not getting one of those guys.
Okay, but if you have the opportunity in the second round to secure that top 8 receiver, or 9 receiver, good idea, right?
Must.
Yeah, I mean, especially if you pick early. To Heath's point, if you take Gibbs or McCaffrey or Achane, whoever your preferred choice may be, and you're looking at Higgins and Tyreek and maybe still McConkey, then you may not be so inclined to have to force it if you don't love those guys. So you may go running back. You may put a tight end there. You obviously, depending on your league, can take quarterback. I think the other thing is, like, just to reference that draft from Tuesday night, we had one manager start their team with, I think it was CeeDee Lamb, and then it was Chase Brown and Bucky Irving, if you recall. So it was CeeDee Lamb, Chase Brown, Bucky Irving, and then in round 4, that manager took Chuba Hubbard. This is a 2 running back, 2 receiver, 1 flex league, full PPR. So it did not take second receiver until round 5 with Tedero McMillan. Like, I'm perfectly fine with that.
And let me just see, do you remember who the 3rd receiver was for that team?
The 3rd receiver was Stephon Diggs.
Okay, so you're going to war with,
and also I'm sorry, took his 4th running back before his 3rd receiver.
So if you're going to war with CeeDee Lamb, Tedero McMillan, who was a round 5 pick, then he took Mahomes, then he took Bigsby, and then Stephon Diggs, Emeka Ibuka. That would be pretty risky to me. This is, again, though, 2 receiver full PPR. So CeeDee Lamb, Tedero McMillan, Stephon Diggs, Emeka Ibuka.
Right, but in theory, we'll never have to play a wide receiver in a flex spot. And you're potentially just rotating if everybody's healthy. If McMillan gets off to a slow start or isn't the guy that's as good as advertised, you're rotating McMillan, Diggs, potentially Ibuka. I don't remember who the 4th receiver was.
Well, so just to go back to 3 of your top 40 in this build, right? Like, if you're running back heavy and you draft Chase Brown, Bucky Irving, and Chuba Hubbard and Patrick Mahomes, if he did not take Tank Bigsby and instead he had taken Zay Flowers, Ricky Pearsall, Chris Godwin, Chris Olave, Jacoby Myers,
much better.
Yeah. Then you can absolutely get away with that, of taking 1 wide receiver with your first 4 picks, and then in rounds 5 and 7 even securing 2 more in the top 40. And this is, again, a 2 receiver league. And yeah, that's a good roster build. That's a really nice roster build.
Now, you don't want to do, and again, it was an auto draft outside of the first 5 rounds from team 2.
Team 2? Oh, team 2. Yeah, we won't talk about team 2.
Well, I mean, it's again, if you're, let's just say it's not only 2 wide receivers. Let's say it's 3 or 4.
So he took Bijan Robinson, T. Higgins, Jonathan Taylor, James Conner, Cortland Sutton, which is fine at that point, right? And then no wide receivers for the rest of the draft because it was auto pick. So that's a good build. Is just take another one at some point or 2. All right. Your overall wide receiver strategy. We're going to find out about that in just a little bit. Now, if you haven't signed up for BetMGM, let's use that bonus code FANTASY when you sign up. There's a really nice offer attached with that. You're going to get up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. So download the BetMGM app and sign up using the bonus code FANTASY. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game. You'll receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if your bet loses. Just make sure you use the bonus code FANTASY when you sign up. Guys, I'm excited about what we just talked about. Just Heath, the blob, as you refer, but the depth of usable, I'm saying they're going to be league winners, but usable, start-worthy wide receivers. If you really think there are about 40 of them and you only have to start 2, again, everything changes if it's a 3-receiver league. But if you only have to start 2, that does free up a little bit to take quarterback, to take a tight end early, right?
Right. And I think like the depth of the position is kind of strange because it feels to me like it's a little worse in terms of wide receiver 2s and very, very deep in terms of wide receiver 3s. So that's the only downside is in a 2 wide receiver league, if somebody has one of those top 8 and then their number 2 wide receiver is one of the top 3 or 4 number 2s, then you could be quite a ways behind in that strategy.
All right, we're going to take a quick break and we'll talk about, we've been really hitting on strategy, but we'll finish up our strategy discussion. I'll ask these guys who they draft a lot of, who they avoid. Later, we'll do sleepers, breakouts, and busts. We do have some news and notes for you as well. We'll be right back on Fantasy Football Today.
When you need your sports news all the time,
we've got breaking news to bring to you.
CBS Sports HQ gives you a snapshot of all the sports that matter to you. When you need your sports in a snap, find it on CBS Sports HQ, streaming free anywhere you are.
Okay, so maybe we've already answered this, but Heath, what's your overall wide receiver strategy if you have one?
Yeah, I don't know that I have an overall wide receiver strategy. But it has been, and I'm going to bleed into what I'm going to say when you ask me who I've been drafting a lot of, but it's the young guys is my overall wide receiver strategy. I like the young guys, and the exception to that is I am higher on the oldest elite wide receiver, AJ Brown.
Jamie, how about you?
I tried to take as many of my top 20 as I can. Like, Heath said the blob starts at 9 for him. For me, the blob starts at basically like wide receiver 19, 20-ish in that range. So if I can get 3 of my top 20, I'm usually pretty happy. So generally 1 in the first 2 rounds. And then because I don't really prioritize, unless the draft falls the right way, quarterback or tight end early, I try to load up on my top end receivers as much as I can. So usually it's 1 elite guy, 1 potentially high-end player, and then 1 sort of hopeful breakout.
And I want to clarify because I was trying to follow Adam's dumb exercise and not use a haiku and use 5 words instead. I think the blob actually probably starts about 17 for me.
The blob starts at wide receiver 17?
Yes, and goes through wide receiver 38-ish.
Wow. Okay. Maybe we can work on a blob haiku. You want to think about it? Here's my wide receiver strategy, just kind of the way I read the position. You guys can tell me what you think about it. So I have 8 guys that I consider elite. Heath has 9. Jamie, I guess, has 10 with Drake London. I would honestly question if you really consider Drake London to be elite, because I don't think he would fetch. I don't think you would bid the same dollar or even close to the same dollar amount on Drake London that you would on, say, Justin Jefferson.
Well, of course not, because I have them ranked differently, but there's different, clearly, tiers. I think there are 10 guys that have a chance to finish in the top 5 range. And
there's 11. There's 11.
So T. Higgins should be
Tyreek.
Maybe Tyreek too. But the point is also, Adam, like, you also wouldn't bid the same on Brian Thomas as you would on Jamar Chase.
No, but it'd be close. And well, okay, that's true, because Chase is all right. Fine. Chase is. You're right. I don't really believe that Jamie thinks Drake London is elite, but okay, fine.
And somebody said in the chat that I always have a very serious face. Look at my face like I'm judging people. I'm reading your chats.
Yeah.
Just reading the chat.
Dude, the chat throws me off. There have been episodes where I've been in Florida in the studio and I haven't had the chat in front of me, and I feel like those have been my best episodes. The chat.
Best work in Florida. Wow, that's interesting.
The chat just gets me so lost.
Yeah.
All right. Sorry for questioning your Drake London take. You think?
Oh, you should question it. That's what your job is. Your job is to question, just like our job is to question your Caleb Williams take.
That's an easy one. All right. So anyway, I see it like this. I have 8 wide receivers in some order. I'll just go in order of ADP: Chase, Jefferson, Lamb, St. Brown, who we think is way overvalued at wide receiver 4. We have him like 9, I think, in our consensus rankings. Yep. Not that he's not great, but he shouldn't be 4. Puka, Neighbors, Nico, Brian Thomas Jr. That's it for me. I love to get one of those. AJ Brown is just behind them. Go ahead.
Pause. Because this was the research I was doing today, but I understand why people prefer Nico Collins to AJ Brown. I don't understand how you could say they're in a different tier. You said earlier they're the same guy, and they've been almost the same guy. Nico's been a half point per game better, and AJ Brown plays more games every year.
Okay. I'd love to have this discussion. I think it's a great discussion. let me finish my wide receiver strategy.
Well, you include AJ Brown, and then you can.
Those are the 8
for
guys.
Tomorrow, Heath, when we talk about players.
Those are the 8 guys that I really want one of them. And if I don't get one of them, I am prioritizing AJ Brown, I think 18th overall. But I will take pretty much all of those top 8 over Derrick Henry. And then I'll take Henry and I'd already take HN at that point. And then I'll take AJ Brown. If I
Henry's your cutoff.
Henry and AJ Brown are the last of the elites for me. And if I don't get one of those elite wide receivers, if I have an early pick and I took, Jahmyr Gibbs or whoever it may be, then I really do love the wide receivers available in rounds 2 and 3. So we're talking about maybe Drake London. He's not going to last that deep into round 2, but Tyreek Hill, T. Higgins. We are going to talk about Lab McConkey. Now, I don't know if we still consider him a great pick with the Keenan Allen signing. But those 3 in particular, if I can get Higgins, Hill, McConkey, that's great. Hopefully that could be my 2nd or 3rd round pick. And then I still love some of the players available in round 3, at running back in particular. Chase Brown falls there. So if I don't get one of those top 8 receivers, I think I'm still going to be fine with my first 3 picks. And then with my mid-round picks, I like to target Jamison Williams and Ricky Pearsall at like the end of round 5 and the end of round 7, respectively. Good offense, great offenses often produce the mid-round picks that smash their ADP. But we can get into that a little bit later. But okay, AJ Brown versus Nico Collins. That's what you want to do?
I want the justification for Nico being in a different tier than AJ Brown. Because I think honestly it's a coin flip between AJ Brown and Nico Collins. And if you want to just completely disregard Nico's lack of ever playing a full season, I think that's fine. Like just draft without worrying about injury risk. But that doesn't even put him in a different tier still.
So AJ Brown has not finished higher than 7th per game at the position since being on the Eagles. It is strictly because the Eagles don't throw the ball enough. Now they've been 21st, 23rd, and 32nd in pass attempts. If they were 10th in pass attempts, he could be wide receiver 1. The Texans are going to throw more. They're probably going to be middle of the pack in pass attempts. Nico Collins and AJ Brown, I said they're the same player because they're basically 2 of the most efficient players. Yards per route run, yards per target. They're going to be right at the top of the list along with Puka Nacua. Those would be my 3 picks, I'd say, for like the most efficient receivers. They're amazing guys, but AJ Brown, I don't know that he can crack the top 6 because he hasn't done it yet. And last year he was wide receiver 13 per game. Why was he wide receiver 13 per game? Because they were dead last in pass attempts. So that possibility still exists. They are the Eagles. They won the Super Bowl. And once they changed their offense, they did not lose a single game with a healthy Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley. So the possibility of them being 32nd in pass attempts is still there. And that's why AJ Brown is not in the super elite tier for me. He's the next guy out.
I would just say last year, I think it was 17.5 to 16.7 in favor of Nico. Nico played fewer games, of course. The year before, it was 17.4 to 17. The year before that, AJ Brown was best year in Philly at 17.6, and Nico had not yet become a good fantasy player. And I just don't, when they're always within basically a half a point of each other, something has to be different this year for Nico to be in a different tier.
I think Nico Collins, first of all, 2 years ago, he played with Tank Dell. Last year he played with Stephon Diggs for a while. And then he came back and he just wasn't the same after the hamstring injury. But his first 5 games before, first 4 weeks, he was on pace for 2,078 yards on 183 targets. So he had a 29% target share. He just wasn't the same after the injury. I really believe Nico Collins could be wide receiver 2 or 3 this year. Probably not 1. He probably won't. He's not going to have like that 180 target season. But I do think I think he has his best year because he's got the least amount of competition. And if he stays healthy all year, which I guess is a big if, he'll be as, close to as good as he was in those first 4 weeks. Not that good because that was insane, but he'll be really good. All right, that's my Nico Collins defense. All right, anyway, that's kind of the lay of the land at wide receiver, but there are good ones throughout the draft. And I mentioned this, there are at least 2 rookies every year, 5 years in a row, I think, that have been drafted in round 9 or later and finished top 24. So I don't know if this is going to be the year. It's not the best rookie season, but there's good value throughout the draft. I don't think we have to talk about 2 receiver versus 3 receiver anymore, do we? We pretty much covered that?
Yeah.
All right. So, Jamie, who are some of the wide receivers you draft a lot of?
Any of the top 10. The most mid-round receivers that I take the most of are DK Metcalf and Cortland Sutton. The most late-round receivers that I take the most of, or later-round receivers, are Darnell Mooney, Demario Douglas, Cedric Tillman. Trying to think who else in that range of players. Luther Burden and Emeka Egbuka. It varies, but probably the most exposure I have is to Metcalf, Sutton. Trying to think I'm missing somebody.
Well, let me ask you about those 2 guys. Are you comfortable taking Metcalf and Sutton in round 4 of a 12-team league or 5?
Well, there are several teams that have both of them, so you have to do it in 4 and 5. You cannot do it in 5 and 6. So it's almost impossible to do it in 5 and 6.
Okay. And Metcalf's their ADPs are both in round 5. I think we often see them go in round 4 or late round 4. Okay, so Metcalf and Sutton are the headliners there. Mooney, Demario Douglas, Tillman, Luther Burden, Emeka Egbuka, other names mentioned for Jamie. Heath, how about you?
Yeah, I think the early wide receivers are just totally determined by where you're drafting. So, I mean, AJ Brown's certainly the guy I've drafted the most out of the top 10 wide receivers. After that, it's definitely Jerry Jeudy, Cooper Kupp, Tedero McMillan, Deebo Samuel, Jacoby Myers is a steal in full PPR leagues. Golden and Egbuka.
Matthew Golden getting a lot of buzz, and so is Emeka Egbuka. Mentioned Jacoby Myers. Jacoby Myers has been top 30 per game 3 straight years, and he's being drafted around wide receiver 40. Fantasy Pros, I'll double check that. He's wide receiver 41. That's Jacoby Myers.
I wonder what Egbuka is going to become. Getting a lot of mention of him in the chat when everybody's healthy. Because if he's as good as potentially advertised, and like you said, the buzz has been great, who's it going to impact? Because it has to impact somebody. And the obvious choice right now is Godwin because of injury. But if he plays to the level that he could, it's bad for all of them.
Yeah. They were actually the Bucs were a pretty run-heavy team down the stretch last year, and they did well with it. Their record got a lot better. They didn't throw that much, believe it or not. And maybe that was because Godwin was out and Evans was out for some of it. So maybe they just go back to throwing the ball a little bit more, which would be fun. Which wide receivers do you avoid, Heath?
Definitely Amon-Ra St. Brown. I have mostly avoided Garrett Wilson. I think I've avoided Marvin Harrison Jr. And that's probably a good top 3.
That's pretty good. All right, give me 3, quickly why you're avoiding Amon-Ra St. Brown, Garrett Wilson, and Marvin Harrison Jr.
A little worried about the Lions. I still think he's definitely a top 9 wide receiver, but he's 9 for me, and he never goes that late for St. Brown. Garrett Wilson, I'm just worried about total pass volume in that offense and the accuracy of the targets a little bit. And Marvin Harrison Jr., I'm just like, can I please see a highlight of him doing something other than running down the sideline and making a great catch with no safety on the field?
And yeah, the pass attempts over the last 12 seasons, there have only been 6 wide receivers who have finished top 12 in PPR and half PPR on an offense that's been bottom 5 in pass attempts. So consider that. Do you think Garrett Wilson's going to be on an offense that's bottom 5 in pass attempts?
Let's see. I have Justin Fields projected for the second fewest pass attempts.
Jamie, who are some players you avoid?
Mike Evans. Trying to think, like, consistently avoid.
How about with those elite players? You know, like for Heath, it's Amon-Ra St. Brown because
I haven't drafted a lot of Justin Jefferson because I pushed him down a little bit with the hamstring injury, and so he's now outside of my top 6, and he's usually gone by then. So this like Evans is, I don't know if I go out of my way to avoid him, but he usually goes in a spot where I don't draft him. So the players I just haven't been drafting, if that's the better way to frame it.
Sure.
Have not been drafting a lot of Justin Jefferson lately. Have not been drafting a lot of Puka Nacua lately. Again, pushing those guys down because of either their own injuries or their quarterback injuries. So those would be the elite guys that I just have not drafted a lot of lately. The Chiefs receivers lately, just because it seems as if Rice is clearly Patrick Mahomes' guy. And will that be worthy? How many games is he going to miss in terms of Rice? Like, it just kind of been a spot where I've been avoiding those guys.
Yeah. Well, let me take a look at maybe the last week or so of NFC drafting.
Oh, McLaurin. I do not draft Terry McLaurin, and I will not be drafting Terry McLaurin in anywhere close to where he's been drafted.
Okay, I want to see where Rashee Rice is going because, yeah, Jamie, you mentioned that he is looking great apparently, and he's Patrick Mahomes' #1 target. He does have a groin issue right now, but he is currently NFC ADP since August 1st. Rashee Rice is 49th overall. That's how. I don't know. I'm surprised by that.
Well, again, you're trying to win a tournament. And so if you're trying to win a tournament and he only gets suspended for 3 games and you have 14 games of that guy, you want that. So you have to go a little bit earlier.
All right. Where are you guys comfortable taking Rashee Rice?
Round 5.
Yeah, it would have to be 6 or later for me.
Okay. All righty. Quick news and notes. Chris Godwin could miss a couple of weeks with an ankle injury. A couple of regular season weeks. So we'll see. The Bucs situation is tough to crack. Khalil Shakir has a high ankle sprain. He could be ready for week 1. Malik Neighbors, he's going to be missing some practice time. He's just maintenance for his toe, which might require surgery in the offseason. Cam Scadaboo is out indefinitely with a hamstring injury for the Giants. Tyreek Hill missed practice with an undisclosed injury. Darren Waller could practice next week. Some players who have been getting a lot of buzz, they've been camp standouts. Remember, it's every year with rookies. Rookies are always amazing. Teteroa McMillan, Matthew Golden, Emeka Ibuka in particular. Those 3 have been true standouts. And also Seattle rookie wide receiver Torrey Horton has done pretty well apparently in camp. Colts receiver Adonai Mitchell has had a very good training camp, according to Nate Atkins of the Indianapolis Star, and he should have a role in the offense. I mentioned Rashee Rice.
Another guy to take targets. That's great.
I know. Rashee Rice has a groin injury. Marquise Brown dealing with a ankle injury, hopefully on his way back. And tough news for Mason Taylor. He's got an ankle sprain, a high ankle sprain. This is Jets rookie tight end Mason Taylor. He's going to miss a few weeks, hopefully back for week 1. All right. Wide receiver strategy in different formats other than the 2 receiver, 3 receiver league. Jamie, non, half, full PPR. How much differently are we drafting wide receivers?
In full PPR, you can make a case. You said 6 are going in the first round. You can make a case for probably 8 to go in the first round. That just pushes up the elite guys, as we're going to talk about at some point over the next 2 days. Like, even though we like that blob 20 through 40 to some degree, like there's a pretty clear drop off where it starts to become a lot of questions. The Olave questions, the Godwin questions, the Chiefs receivers question. Like, just it becomes a lot of ifs. How many games will Joe Flacco play to impact Jerry Jeudy and Cedric Tillman? Like, just a lot of questions across the board. We'll get into that, I'm sure, tomorrow. But so in PPR, I think you want to try and get receivers early if you can. I think the running back depth is good enough this year that you can wait on that position a little bit more. In half and non, I think it's gonna push those receivers down a little bit more. Half maybe not as much, but in non PPR, like I went through and did a pretty big adjustment on my non PPR rankings last night, and it was just so heavy running back related versus wide receiver related in the first like 50 to 80 picks. I don't remember exactly where it started to really shift, but a lot of guys in PPR that I like much better in that format than non. Not receivers, excuse me.
The blob gets much denser the less catches are worth, because receptions are one of the things that separate guys in projections and in fantasy production. And so when receptions are worth almost nothing, wide receivers outside of the top 12 or 13, however many it is for you, are worth very, very little.
I know touchdowns can be difficult to predict, but when you're talking about non-PPR, are you looking at these receivers and going, well, he's going to score touchdowns, he's not going to score touchdowns? For example, are you putting AJ Brown ahead of Puka Nacua in non-PPR? Nacua has had a touchdown problem.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And that is a weird thing with Nacua, because he just doesn't get a lot of end zone targets. He gets a lot of red zone targets. He doesn't get green zone and end zone targets.
That is not as much for me about the fact that Puka has not scored touchdowns as the fact that AJ Brown's just so efficient.
Right.
And so he gets penalized by the lower targets because of the offense he's in, and that doesn't hurt him in non-PPR.
Sure.
In non-PPR, like if you think anybody's going to score 10 touchdowns, like they get bumped up tremendously. So Metcalf, Sutton, Evans, Addison when he's on the field, like
Addison, yeah.
Jameson Williams. Like these guys are so much more valuable in those formats.
Question from Scott: would you guys be okay with someone like Jalen Waddle as your wide receiver 2, or is that a disadvantage?
If your roster build is strong enough at the other positions, especially if it's a 2 receiver league. So go back to that one team we referenced and just take out Tedero McMillan and put in Jalen Waddle as that guy. So you go CD Lamb, Chase Brown, Bucky Irving, Chuba Hubbard,
Mahomes,
quarterback, and then it's Jalen Waddle. Yeah. Or I'm sorry, Waddle, then quarterback.
Oh, it was right. It was McMillan, Mahomes. Yeah. How big of a difference is there between Tedero McMillan, Cortland Sutton, those guys that are going to be going round 5, Jerry Jeudy, compared to Jalen Waddle?
I don't know if Waddle and Judy is a good comparison, because I think you can make a case that they're somewhat similar, different ways, but somewhat similar. The other guys probably have more upside than Waddle at this point, but Waddle could, I don't want to say break fantasy, but if Tyreek Hill is out, like there's so much upside for Jalen Waddle. So I think he's, if you want to talk about tiers, like I think he's in a tier behind McMillan and Sutton and McMillan in that order. But I think he's in the same tier with Jerry Jeudy. Jeudy could be amazing, but you take Joe Flacco off that team or out of the starting lineup, and Jerry Jeudy's going to scare the hell out of me.
The other thing is, I don't think you can, like, it's just so hard to have these, how big of a difference is there between Jalen Waddle and somebody else? Because which Jalen Waddle are you getting?
Yeah.
He's a different guy every year.
Yeah. And okay, so Waddle in his career has finished as wide receiver 14, 14, 22, and 56 per game in full PPR.
But even the 14-14 were in completely different ways.
Completely different ways. Absolutely. Okay.
The 22 is what you should be expecting if you're expecting to have a good season with Tyreek Hill healthy.
And HN healthy.
Yep.
But this is an important question. And the reason why is, if we say we want 3 top 40 wide receivers, in a 2 receiver league, I didn't really say how good the number 2 receiver should be, right? Because I don't think we want stud wide receiver in round 1 and then wide receiver 38 and 39 in the consensus rankings as our next 2 receivers, right? We want to go a little earlier than that. Waddle is wide receiver 31 in your consensus rankings. He is 25th for Heath, but he's closer to 31 for Dave and Jamie. That does feel like waiting a little too long to me anyway for that second wide receiver. Thoughts?
Well, I would agree. But again, if you're going to wait until what we keep calling the blob to get that second receiver, like I think, and this is something I struggle with every time I look at my rankings, because I think where he has Waddle is where he should start to come off the board, maybe even a couple spots earlier, because there's a lot of buzz. You want to talk about a guy having a good camp. As we discussed last week, I believe it was, or maybe the start of the week. He's going against a lot of maybe crappy cornerbacks from Miami, but he's having a good camp. And now Jonnu Smith is gone, so there's a shift in how this all could play out for the Dolphins receivers, maybe going back to what he's done earlier in his career. I just think that if you're waiting until the blob, so it could be, I'm trying to think, like, maybe Adam, read the consensus receivers 20 through 25.
Evans, DJ Moore, Xavier Worthy, Terry McLaurin, Jerry Jeudy, Devontae Smith.
So I don't think this is a bad second receiver, but it's also, again, for me, this is where the start of the questions come into play. So if you were to say it's Jeudy, it's McLaurin, it's DJ Moore, like there's a lot of issues there, but clearly you should have your stud receiver, a lot of good talent at running back or quarterback and wide receiver or tight end, and then you have one of these guys as your second guy. I don't hate that, but I agree with you. I think if you're talking about it's Justin Jefferson, Ricky Pearsall, and Rome Odunze, like I don't love that.
Yeah, it could work, but
it could absolutely work, but I just don't love it.
Right. All right. We're going to take a quick break. We'll do sleepers, breakouts, and busts, and auction values after this. My favorite sleeper wide receiver is blank, Heath.
I think it has to be Emeka Egbuka. He's still in round 10 according to our ADP, maybe creeping up into round 9 and 8 in some drafts, but great chance to start the year hot with Chris Godwin potentially out, and Godwin's injury history and Evans' age means he may get a chance to be a top 2 wide receiver on the team for a majority of the season.
Okay. And there's obviously downside there, right? Because if Evans and Godwin are themselves and Jalen McMillan is a factor, then I could see Egbuka having a JSN-like rookie season, which just wasn't very good. And he had Metcalf. Exactly. That's what I was going to say. But I don't, but my follow-up question was, how early would be too early if the buzz keeps picking up for Egbuka?
I don't think I'll go past round 8.
Okay. You can give more than one sleeper if you want. Up to you.
No.
Okay. One sleeper it is, Emeka Egbuka. Jamie?
I give you 10. I'll go Demario Douglas. I think just the opportunity in Josh McDaniels' offense, and he's still free on draft day, to get what hopefully will be a go-to option for Drake May. Like, Stephon Diggs is obviously going to see some time in the slot, and I'm sure they're going to, mix and match some of these guys. We'll see where Kyle Williams lies up. We'll see what happens with Matt Collins now that he's back. Very funny video, by the way, on our social sites with Bryant McFadden talking about all Matt Collins' quirky habits, walking barefoot, eating with no utensils, all those things. It's pretty funny. But in any event, I just think for a late round pick, one of your last picks, I don't know how much longer he'll be there, but I take a lot of Demario Douglas.
Okay. Jamie, favorite breakout?
Oh, boy. Let's go with Jamar Chase. I think he's going to have a big season this year. Favorite breakout. You're going to hate it, but I'm going to say rookie. Tedero McMillan. I think just big opportunity here for the Panthers. Heath said it, I think it was yesterday or recently, one of the shows we've done. Maybe it was CBS Sports Network, that we saw it last year with Adam Thielen. When Bryce Young started to get hot, he was focusing on Thielen quite a bit. And Thielen's still there. They're, seemingly getting good reports on Xavier Legette. And we may see, Bryce Young spread the ball around. But I'm getting more and more excited about McMillan. Seems like he's having a strong camp, picking things up quickly, and drafted to be a significant playmaker right away. So I know we don't like saying rookies as breakouts, but I think he could have a top 20-ish caliber season.
Do you anticipate moving him ahead of Cortland Sutton or DK Metcalf, 2 guys you mentioned earlier?
I don't, but he's getting closer to those guys. So he's in my top 24. He's 23 right now, and I could certainly see him moving past DJ Moore. DJ Moore's 22 for me. Moving past DJ Moore, moving past Xavier Worthy, those type of guys. The right situation will dictate the Worthy spot. But I think, there's a question in the chat. McMillan's a round 5 target for me.
It's an interesting round because you have guys that we think could be breakouts, right? So it's McMillan, Xavier Worthy, Jameson Williams is just getting a lot of hype. How do you rank those 3? So you said you might move Worthy, you might move him ahead of Worthy, but right now, McMillan, Worthy, Jamison, Williams. How do you rank them?
Right now it's Worthy, McMillan, Williams. And again, if you just want to say number one Chiefs receiver, McMillan, Williams. So Worthy will stay ahead of him if Rice is suspended for more than 3 games. Rice will fly ahead of him if it's 3 games or less. And I will take McMillan over Williams right now.
Oh, I'm getting pretty pumped about McMillan. Earlier I said, I like to get Jamison Williams. I might have to change that to Tedero McMillan. It's a tough one. Heath, how do you rank that group? Chiefs receivers, Jamison, Tet, Aroa.
Worthy, Tedero, Jamison.
Okay. All right. So who's your favorite breakout, Heath?
I mean, I think in terms of guys, the guy who I have the ranked the highest that could potentially be a breakout, it would be Worthy. And it just comes down to, Jamie said it, like, we don't have any idea how long Rashee Rice is going to be suspended. It was easier with Addison because it was substance related, and they've got pretty specific terms for that. Rice's situation is a little bit murkier. And so if we get a 6-game suspension for Rashee Rice, then Xavier Worthy at wide receiver 21 or 22 might be a steal. He was phenomenal down the stretch last year. He has improved his short area route running as well. So if Rice is out, Worthy can do more of that. And he's the best deep threat on the field.
This really sucks because I really want all of these players. So
Right.
you try to take 2 of them as maybe one of them falls to round 6. But the problem is if you do that,
Well, you do what Jamie said he does with DK and Sutton, which I've got both DK and Sutton ahead of these guys in round 4. But if you want to draft the young, exciting guys, you take one of them in round 4, one of them in round 5.
I don't know if I want to take one of them in round 4.
You can't draft 2 of them.
Well, you might be able to draft one of them in round 6. Because ADP, let's see, McMillan's 66th overall. That's round 6.
That's going the opposite direction.
Worthy,
That's not going to last.
Jamison Williams is 62nd.
I don't see him moving very much.
Worthy's 57th. But the other problem is I really want to take RJ Harvey and Travion Henderson, and they're going right in that range too.
So I think depending on when you draft, Harvey's ADP is going to fall a little bit now with the depth chart stupidity. You said Henderson. Henderson will probably hang in this range. I don't think he'll go up too much unless there's a Stevenson injury. A lot of it's going to be dictated by once the fantasy world starts drafting and the quarterbacks get all pushed up in this range, and Travis Kelce and Sam Laporta get pushed up in this range. Like it's going to change a lot. So you might be able to. I just want to go back some because you mentioned Jordan at the suspension. I don't think we talked. You mentioned this. He has said he's not going to appeal it.
Right. I didn't say that. You're right.
So he's going to be out 3 games. And I know we'll talk about this more tomorrow, but I think we should bring it up because we had the podcast on this. He comes back week 4. They face the Steelers. No way, shape, or form is that going to be easy, no matter how well McCarthy's playing. Week 5 at Cleveland. Fine. You're maybe starting him there. Week 6 is their bye. You may not have Jordan Addison in your starting lineup until week 7.
That's a good point. So, it'd be fun if I did an auction draft and I got Henderson, Harvey, Tedero McMillan, like all these guys.
I was going to make you an offer, actually, that in the next real draft that we do together, I'll just trade you my 4th and 5th round picks so you can have 4 of these guys, and you give me your first. Then you get 4 of the guys you really want. You don't have to.
So nice of you. Yeah, that's really nice of you.
Would you trade your 4th and 5th and 8th for his 1st, his 10th, and his 11th?
Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty appealing. I don't think I'd do it. Okay, so let's talk about this.
I think you'd have an awesome team that way because
it could work, but let's talk
2,
about
like you come away with. I know we're going off track here. I don't care. You come away with. Well, I'll make it just all receivers. So you want Harvey and Henderson, right?
Please do the bust now.
No, you want Harvey and Henderson, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so round 2 you go.
Heath, who's going to be the biggest bust this year?
Yeah, I think it's for me. I hate to say it. But amongst the guys being drafted in round 1, I think it's Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Mhm.
I don't think he's actually going to bust. It's like Jamie calling Saquon Barkley a bust on the running back show, and he still thinks you should draft him at the end of round 1. So he doesn't think he's going to be terrible. I don't think St. Brown's going to be terrible. But I do think it's the offense, even if Ben Johnson was there, I would project to be slightly worse than it was last year because it was historically great. I expect they're going to score probably 10 fewer touchdowns at least. And then you've got the loss of their all-pro center, and you've got the loss of Ben Johnson and Jamison Williams' emergence. And St. Brown touchdown regression. And I just think that he's going to be a low-end wide receiver 1 and not a top 5 guy.
I think that's one of the big takeaways from today's show. Some of them would be you can wait in a 2 receiver league and anchor yourself with a kind of a hero or wide receiver strategy. You can do that in a 2 receiver league. We don't recommend that in a 3 receiver league. We still think there's some very good wide receivers close to 40th overall in our rankings. We think that drafters are too high on Amon-Ra St. Brown because he's wide receiver 4. And the highest guy amongst the 3 of Dave, Jamie, Heath on St. Brown is Dave, who has him as wide receiver 7. We think there are anywhere from 8 to 10 elite wide receivers. We'd like to get one of them, but we can make it work if we don't. That's kind of it, I think, for some of the major takeaways. But St. Brown, on an individual level, is one that really stands out. And also, I think we like the round 5 wide receivers. We hope we pick the right one. Because DK Metcalf, Cortland Sutton, Xavier Worthy, Teteroa McMillan, Jamison Williams, these are rounds 5 and 6. We like these guys a lot. Jamie, a bust call for you.
Terry McLaurin. The history of hold-ins, holdouts scares me. The touchdown spike last year compared to his other numbers, his other metrics. Look, he's playing with the best quarterback of his career, and it's going to be a situation that he should still get featured, but you have 2 things for me working against him: regression and not practicing. And he's outside my top. He's in the blob.
I got to ask about someone. All right, recap real quick. Jamie said sleeper Emeka Ibuka, breakout Teteroa McMillan.
No.
Sleeper to Mario Douglas, breakout Teteroa McMillan, Terry McLaurin, bust. For Heath, it was Emeka Ibuka, sleeper, Xavier Worthy, breakout, Amon-Ra St. Brown, bust. We haven't really said Marvin Harrison Jr.'s name. More likely to be a breakout or a bust in round 4?
Breakout for me.
I'm going to say bust, and it has nothing to do with Marvin Harrison Jr. I'd like some indication that the offense is going to change, because the offensive plan for Marvin Harrison last year was not one that's going to lead to a breakout from round 4.
More likely to be a breakout, a bust, or just return his ADP in round 4. I should have said that.
Breakout.
I think he's I've got him in round 5, so I guess I'd say bust, but I think it's fine. And he's great.
Is he?
I think he is.
I hope so.
But I also don't like this whole Kyler running more thing for him.
Yeah. Kyler has had years where he's run a lot, and DeAndre Hopkins has been great, but
he didn't have a tight end that he was throwing the ball to 120 times
exactly.
or 150.
50, right? Exactly. All right. Auction talk real quick. So how much are the elite guys going for you? $100 budget, PPR.
25 plus.
Yeah, I'll pull up my actual auction values here, and I've got 30 on Chase and Lamb.
How much on Brian Thomas Jr.?
26.
How much for Teteroa McMillan?
7 to 10.
8.
So you could get McMillan, Worthy, Sutton, and Metcalf for maybe a little more than Chase. Right?
Yep.
It's kind of a fun concept there. Auctions are super fun. Just don't be the auctioneer and also be drafting. That did not go well for me last year. Try to get an auctioneer who's not in the league.
What do you mean?
We did a live auction.
By auctioneer.
We did a live auction. We didn't use the computers.
Okay.
And I was like, taking the bid, saying the players, taking the bids, trying to put the stickers on the draft board. That didn't work. And also trying to draft a team. And
so my uncle was an actual auctioneer.
Ooh.
And could do the voice and everything. Did you attempt to do the voice?
The speed thing?
Yeah.
No, I didn't.
We've heard you do the fast reads. It seems like you could do that.
I was at a restaurant. I mean, I'm doing it at my house this year.
Why didn't you just do it on the computer?
People wanted to do a live auction.
No, still do it live.
The Wi-Fi wasn't ideal. It just didn't work out. That's why one of the reasons why we're gonna do it at my house. Okay, so we got a little time left here. Do we want to get into some round one players?
Yes.
Or save that for tomorrow? I think let's do round one players.
Yeah.
Okay. Jamar Chase, just give me 10 seconds. Jamie, go.
Triple Crown winner last year. Amazing system, amazing player. Has a chance to repeat as wide receiver 1.
If I were going to give you guys Jamar Chase or the next 5 wide receivers in ADP to finish as wide receiver 1, who would you take?
So those would be Jefferson, Lamb, St. Brown, and Puka.
And
Neighbors.
I'll take the 5.
I would take the 5 because I think Lamb can get there. He's the only one.
Who's wide receiver 2 for you?
Lamb.
CeeDee Lamb has averaged, let's just so you know, PPR points per game. Chase was at 23.7. Rashee Rice was at 21.6. Chris Godwin, 19.7. But for the ones who actually played closer to full seasons, no one topped 19 points per game last year except for Chase. 2023, you had CeeDee Lamb at 23.8. You had Tyreek Hill, 23.7. Keenan Allen, 21.1. You actually had 5 wide receivers at 20 or more. So last year wasn't amazing for the elite wide receivers. It was good. But anyway, CeeDee Lamb has been, I want to say, at least 18.5 PPR fantasy points per game, and sometimes a lot more than that, with Dak Prescott 3 straight years. Prescott misses a lot of time, if you care, but ranking Lamb 2 basically says you don't think George Pickens is going to affect him, right?
Right.
No. I think that, how many passes do you have them projected for, Heath?
610.
And that would put them where?
610 exactly. Wow. And that puts them 3rd.
I think that's fair. And with a run game that's going to be questionable, a defense that might be questionable, if Dak stays healthy, offensive line's questionable too, so keep that in mind. If Dak stays healthy, I would be surprised if they all don't have an opportunity, and all meaning Lamb, Pickens, and Ferguson, have an opportunity to be fairly successful in their respective tiers.
They've been top 5 in pass attempts in 4 of the last 5 seasons. Go ahead, Heath.
And I think it was 245 passes last year when they threw 637. So 245 passes went to non-CeeDee Lamb wide receivers last year.
Right. You brought this up recently of the Jalen Tolbert, Brandon Cooks, group. Now,
right.
Tolbert, I think, is still going to factor in, but I think that's more of a Ferguson Pickens situation, more so than a Lamb situation. Like the way Lamb looks right now in camp, Adam, you brought this up about how we always hear about the rookies. And when you hear something about the veterans, it's either very, very positive or just completely awful. Like he's dominating.
Yeah, I'm not surprised, but he's never had a number 2 receiver like George Pickens. So also, but he wasn't, but okay, yeah, that's true. But he wasn't great at that point. Over the last 3 years, CeeDee Lamb has really broken out. The number 2 receiver on the team has been a tight end. So he's never had this. It's since he's broken out and been a stud. He's also finished higher than wide receiver 8 once in his career, for what it's worth. But I'm not going to argue with you. All right. Who's number 3 for you guys?
Jefferson.
4?
Nico for me.
This is where it could be just about anybody, but I am making the change. It's Neighbors.
Oh, wow.
I had Puka.
You had Puka. Now it's Neighbors. Jamie has Nico. Heath's lower on Nico because of injuries.
because a little bit of injuries. I think it's hard to just focus on his per game stuff when he's never played a full season and he generally has 1 to 2 partial games per season. But also I'm a little bit scared just of the Texans offense with this offensive line and their current running back situation. It might just be a really bad offense.
Or it could be the Cowboys.
I mean, here's the thing about the Cowboys. I wasn't going to bring this up, but you did. The first 8 weeks of the season, this is Dak Prescott being healthy. They were 20th in scoring. Their offensive line is worse. And they hired in-house. I really wanted to see them get a new offensive coordinator, get a new philosophy, but they didn't. So, I mean, they have a new offensive coordinator, but they promoted their coordinator to head coach. So, Dak Prescott's been kind of bad by his standards in 2 of the last 3 seasons. Is it possible that this is not the Cowboys? The Cowboys have been a bedrock for football, for fantasy football, offensively for, I don't know, most of the last 20 years. There probably still will be, but I at least wanted to bring that up, that they were 20th in points per game last year with Dak. And they've got, I would say they're on paper and judging by the preseason ratings, their worst offensive line in a long time. Something to think about.
I think to your point, though, how much was McCarthy calling plays versus Schottenheimer?
Yeah, I don't know. And I think Pickens is really going to help them too. Okay. So top 3 are Lamb, Chase, Jefferson for both of you. Number 4 is Nico for Jamie. It's Nakua for Dave. And it was Puka for Heath, but now it's Neighbors. So why the switch there?
Just a little. I mean, I've kind of just stuck my head in the sand on the Matthew Stafford stuff, but at some point we're probably gonna have to stop doing that. And I've loved everything I've heard out of Giants camp about Russell Wilson and Malik Neighbors. I've been the Russ guy the last couple of years and think he's better than what the perception is of him. And it's an enormous upgrade over what the Giants had last year. And Neighbors was incredible with those awful quarterbacks.
He was pretty damn good. What's a bigger concern for you, though? Malik Neighbors' toe or Matthew Stafford's back?
I haven't really seen anything that suggests that Malik Neighbors' toe is going to keep him from playing this year. I think they're just trying to keep it from being flared up at the start of the season.
I think your theory, though, is right, Adam, that if they suck, shocker, if that happens, that he shuts it down.
Well, no, okay, that's a possibility. My bigger fear is if they suck and they have the hardest schedule in the NFL on paper, by the way, they go to Jackson Dart. And if Jackson Dart were the quarterback, I do not think we would have Puka Nacua 4th.
I think Jackson Dart, my best guess is that he's a lot better than anybody who played quarterback for him last year.
I completely agree. Neighbors was wide receiver 8 per game last year with a just dreadful offense. But he did struggle at the end of the year. I mean, the last 2 games I think were great, but he had a stretch where he really struggled because, believe it or not, there was a big downgrade from Daniel Jones to Tommy DeVito, Drew Lock, whoever else they had. But he had about 11 targets per game. What is it about Russell Wilson? He just doesn't throw that much. Like the last 2 years, I know he had an Arthur Smith year, right? But like Sean Payton, he let a rookie, Bo Nix, throw 3 more passes per game than Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson's usually 31, 32 passes per game. I don't know why. I don't get it. But it keeps
I don't
happening.
think Peyton loved that Russ holds the ball as much as he does.
Maybe. But Giants actually did throw a lot of passes last year. 8th in pass attempts. Okay. So why Neighbors over Brian Thomas Jr.? Brian Thomas Jr. had a lot better rates than Neighbors last year. And Brian Thomas Jr.'s quarterback situation could improve a lot too, because the Jaguars had a horrible passing offense last year.
Well, I mean, the quarterback he was really good with isn't going to be the starter, so it might be worse.
You hate
That's true. I mean,
no, I mean, there's a very obvious answer to this. The number 2 pick in the draft was a wide receiver that joined Brian Thomas Jr. And Malik Neighbors got 3 new quarterbacks and no new target competition.
I think for the people that are in the Neighbors camp, they're looking at Devontae Adams going to the Rams. They're looking at Travis Hunter going to the Jaguars, and they're looking at nobody going to the Giants, right? That's your case.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's
and
easy
quarterback
to
upgrade.
in
It's
quarterback.
easy just to look at it that way. I mean, I have them back to back. I have Neighbors 5 and Thomas 6. So I'm with you, Adam. Like I think there's, you see if you're looking at the average draft position on Fantasy Pros, Neighbors is 10th and Thomas is 15th. Like I think they should be closer together just because you look at the way Thomas finished last season and his target share was close to what Neighbors was getting. Not the same, but it was pretty close. Now, again, there was no Hunter, so factor that in. But also, you're looking at Liam Cohen's system, and here's two guys. Let's get them the ball as much as we can. That was the case last year with Godwin and Evans healthy, and then Evans and McMillan down the stretch. So there's just a lot to love about Brian Thomas' situation. And again, another guy right now, he's a little bit banged up. I think it's maintenance, but by all accounts, having a dominant camp.
And if you like Thomas, close to as much as you like Neighbors or St. Brown or whatever, this does free you up to take a running back in round 1 if you want, and then just say, I'll play the board and hopefully Thomas or Nico falls to me because they're both going about 14th or 15th overall. And then AJ Brown, if you're in the Heath camp, he's even a little bit later than that. So we got St. Brown, who we think should be going toward the end of this group. Puka, Neighbors, Brian Thomas Jr., Nico Collins. Anything you guys want to say about these guys? Who's got the most upside out of Puka, Neighbors, Nico, Brian Thomas Jr.?
I think the 2 second-year guys.
Not Puka, because Puka had a better rookie season. Those guys were such great rookies. Puka was better, and last year he was 18.8 points per game or something like that.
Well, I think just based on the way you're framing it, at least in my mind, I think those guys can get to another level. Like we just said, if Neighbors' target share remains the same and now he's got better quarterback play, like why can't he get better? And if Thomas builds off the way that last year ended, Hunter there or not, why can't he be that guy? Like there's a way for it to happen. Like I think Nakua is going to be awesome if Stafford's fine.
Yeah.
But I see a little bit more downside for him by comparison in terms of just getting to another level. Like 18 points per game, I think, is where Puka's going to be, which is awesome. Great. I don't mind him back into round 1. I'm a little lower on him than overall, but still love him.
Just kind of funny. Puka Nakua has the best rookie season in history. And then he follows it up. He's wide receiver 4 per game. And 2 of the guys ahead of him were Chris Godwin and Rashee Rice. So amongst players who played more than half the season, he's wide receiver 2 per game. And there are doubters. And honestly, he had the 5th highest explosive play rate among wide receivers. He doesn't do it the same way. He's not making plays downfield on bombs, but he's amazing after the catch. He had the 2nd highest yards per route run in the last 12 years.
I don't think there's doubters of Puka's talent. There's doubters of the fact that his quarterback currently has a slipped or herniated disc and he's 37 years old.
But would you have answered Puka before the Stafford news? Because I do feel like people doubt.
I had Puka at wide receiver 4 just moments ago.
Yeah.
Ahead of all these guys. So
the upside question though, would you have said that he had more upside than Neighbors?
I don't know. I mean, I think it's splitting hairs really.
All right. Fair enough. We talked about Nico and AJ Brown earlier. Jamie, you want to weigh in on Nico versus AJ Brown?
I mean, I said where I have him ranked, so Nico's 4th for me. So I would take Nico over AJ Brown with the sort. I lean sort of toward where you're coming from. Like this could be his best year yet. Just clearly has to stay healthy. But if he does with everything that's around, like I know you like Christian Kirk and Jaden Higgins could be certainly a player, and Jalen Noel could have a good rookie season. Like there's a lot of ifs there. There's one certainty. Stephon Diggs coming in with what his resume was and the relationship that Stroud and Tank Dell had on the field. I don't think it's the same. I think Nico's gonna maybe have his best year yet.
It is interesting because I was looking at this, Adam, when you were talking about how many more pass attempts there are in the Texans offense, and it really matters for catch totals. Obviously, they threw 570 passes last year. The Eagles threw 448, which is just an insane difference. But the difference in their team passing yards was 332 yards. The Eagles had 4 more passing touchdowns than the Texans did.
Yeah, I would. You're 100% right. And AJ Brown missed time last year. I was going to say Nico missed a lot of time. Stephon Diggs missed time. Tank Dell missed time. But so did AJ Brown. So did Devontae Smith. So did Dallas Goedert. I do think we need CJ Stroud to play somewhere in between years 1 and year 2. He can't be as bad as he was last year.
And I also like 400. This might be wrong, and it could be part of the reason that I'm higher on AJ Brown. But 448 pass attempts for the Eagles last year. Even though, yes, they won the Super Bowl and they're going to stay run heavy, I think I have them projected for the second or third fewest pass attempts. I think they're probably going to throw quite a few more. They were 563 the year before.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if they're 480 or 490.
I also think if you look at the start of the season when Nico was healthy, Stroud was playing better too.
He was playing better. My theory is just that Nico Collins was not himself after the hamstring injury. I can't really prove that, but his numbers were not as good. I don't know. We've kind of seen it. Like, remember was it the playoffs last year? Tank Dell wasn't playing or something like that, or 2 years ago. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
Last year, Tank Dell got hurt in the Chiefs game in the regular season.
No, but 2 years ago, did Tank Dell miss the playoff game? I can't remember.
Probably.
Yeah, because he broke his leg, right? At one point. And Nico was the number one guy, and I'm doing this off the top of my head, so I could be wrong. And I'm just going to shut up and end the show. All right. Thank you so much to Jamie and Heath and Thomas for producing this wonderful episode. Thanks so much for watching and listening. Wide Receivers Part 2. We'll start with round 2 on tomorrow's show. And we also have a mailbag that we're recording tonight. It's going to publish on Saturday, but we're going to record it on Thursday night at 10:30 p.m. Eastern. It's going to be a wild one. Have a good one, everybody.